All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, April 3rd. We got a decent-sized NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'll give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any player props or any other plays that we like within the game as well. But as always, if you do want to fade me and do the opposite, all of my final plays will be in the pinned comment. Last night, we paid a couple sportsbook salaries there. The only game we hit was the Lakers and Raptors over 232. In that same game, Bruce Brown does not come through. The T-Wolves, they won by 7. So all of a sudden you look at that and it's like, well, probably could have actually had another loss there if, there's one more point on the board. Knicks made it close, had a lead. Then just kind of doors get blown off. Then Miami was the better team. Clippers money line. We talked about it on the Sauces show yesterday. We went live with him. Kawhi gets ruled out after we placed that. I was big on the Mavs, and the parlay doesn't hit, so we'll own the womp womp there. We got to share the womp womp podium with Blaze, but I womp womp myself here. Yes, there's sort of like a womp womp towards you, Blaze. We got to share that. But this was his second pick. He had Kawhi under an assist. Kawhi gets ruled out late. Blaze scrambled to find another play for Paul George in the same game, over 3.5 assists, and that does not end up coming through. So, Blaze, we share that womp womp for the ride of the day. It was a good run. Kind of had to scramble for the last day there, but ultimately does not come through. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, all you got to use is that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I'm jumping on board with one person's pick, and you get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your picks. I'm also shouting you out over on my Twitter at EvGuyBoston. Make sure to go follow me there. Tons of cool stuff over there, and that's honestly the outlet to all the other different content that we're doing. So make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. All of my socials will be popping up right around here throughout the video. But yeah, use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Let's lock in, guys. Buckle up. Let's jump into game number 1 here. But first, hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You guys are going crazy as of late. Even after a bad night, like I always talk about it, I'll show up after a bad night. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, like I'm, going on vacation or I'm sick, like no video today. It's like, yeah, we had a terrible night last night. It's sports betting. We're gamblers. Like, it's going to happen to some degree, right? But nonetheless, before I get on some idiotic rant, let's jump into game number 1 here because we have an instant classic in what, honestly, at the beginning of the year, I thought could be a finals preview. The Charlotte Hornets taking on the Portland Trail Blazers here. Right now, Hornets 2-point favorites, total sitting at 212.5. Honestly, this game does not interest me. And if this game interests you, you are an absolute psycho. The last time they played, there's barely any points in the game, 93-80. I guess I'll lean towards the under based on that. That was only, a month and some change ago. But from a spread perspective, I'll lean towards Portland. Miller and Bridges, both questionable here for Charlotte. Portland obviously has an injury report as long as the Nile River. Like, I don't understand why we even have this game. Like, the NBA should just be like, yeah, why don't we each, like, roll a dice or, flip a coin and you get the win, you get the loss. No one has to get hurt. No one has to worry about it because no one's going to be watching it. So I'll lean towards the Blazers as well as the under, but that's as far as I'm going in this game. I doubt those become final plays. This is, if you could womp womp an NBA game, this would be a womp womp. Next up, we got Washington taking on the Lakers here. Lakers obviously played yesterday, so they are on a back-to-back. In games on back-to-backs this year, they've only covered in 30.8 games here. But again, they're playing Washington. Like, let's not get carried away in saying that they're playing even a near NBA team right now, right? In fact, there's a lot of kind of crappy matchups on the slate today. Nonetheless, I do still think that, if Anthony Davis plays, if the Lakers play, I think they're going to continue to try and make somewhat of a standings push, whether or not it's going to work out or anything like that. Like, losing games definitely don't help them as of right now. Right now they're sitting in the 9th spot. They're a game or a game and a half, I believe, behind the Suns in the 8th spot. So it could be a spot in which they want to climb, because even after that, I think the Suns and Kings are tied. So the Lakers may have their sights set on that number 7 spot, which would matter for that play-in spot. So I don't think they want to lose games. That being said, do we really want to lay 13 points with the Lakers on a back-to-back? Surprisingly, Anthony Davis and LeBron not on the injury report, which is like reverse psychology. I almost think they're not going to play because when they're on the injury report, they seem to always play. So it's really weird. But if they play, I'll lean towards the Lakers. I can't really trust Washington in this spot, but I have a player prop that I actually like regardless of if they play or not. And we'll jump into Outlier for this one, guys. If you guys want to check out Outlier, I have a link in the pinned comment. 7 days free. Looking at Rui Hachimura here, over 13.5 points. I could be convinced of his other, points plus assists, points plus rebounds. He's been doing a decent amount as of late. In fact, if we look here, right, 2.3 potential assists, 11 rebound chances over his last 10. But I do think that I just like the points here. Regardless of LeBron and Anthony Davis play, hell, if they don't play, we can filter to LeBron and Anthony Davis not playing. I'm going to like it even more. He had a 30-point game earlier this year, but the shot attempts have kind of been there. Like, he's shooting, even with guys playing or not playing, 10 times a game. I like him in this spot against Washington, who really struggles at preventing the rim. Like, the 2-point percentage here for Washington struggling. So I could see this, 28th for their defense, right? And that's where Rui Hachimura likes to score. There's only 2 guys on the team that shoot at the rim more than Hachimura. Their names are Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And he has a better percentage than both of them, shooting 82% at the rim this year. So am I too high in a crap game for a random player in a sense? Potentially. Maybe I'm getting carried away here in a sense, but I do like the spot, and I do think that he could have some production for sure against this Washington team. From a total perspective, I think it's a little bit too high just because the Lakers are on a back-to-back. I don't necessarily see them coming out there and putting up a bunch of points. My one concern is this Washington defense is really bad, right? So if they just are ole, yeah, there can be a lot of Lakers points, but the Washington offense also hasn't really been killing it. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the under in this spot as well. All right, Atlanta taking on Detroit. Atlanta has looked decent as of late, in terms of closing out the year without Trae Young. They've won 5 of their last 6 games. They've covered in those, and I want to say 4 of those 6 have been underdog games for them as well. Only 3 of the 5 wins, though. That 1 loss against Milwaukee. Detroit, 1 win in their last 10 games. Now, this is a big number. You can look at Atlanta from the perspective and say, well, they haven't been covering this number, right? But they're rarely favorites in games. Do I think they cover the number? Not necessarily, but I really can't get to the Detroit side of things in this one here. Detroit likes to score from the towards the rim and whatnot. Atlanta's not going to be the easiest team to do that on with Capella down there. What I will say is Detroit likes to score in the mid-range, and that is where Atlanta can struggle. So not that I think that that's going to change the game altogether. I do think that this is a spot where Atlanta probably wins this game. And like I said, I can't get to the Detroit side of things, but from a player prop perspective, I guess we could kind of take a peek at some Detroit players that shoot from the mid-range, which would be pretty much a one-person list. Cade Cunningham. So I could be, swayed if I looked into it long enough. I think Cade Cunningham's over PRA. Right now, that line is pretty high at 36.5, but he's hit it in 2 straight games. When you look at him playing against Atlanta, he's done it in 3 of his last 4 here. And you could show last time he played was back, the week before Christmas here in December, and he had 55. He went for 43 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. You can see Atlanta really struggles to cover that point guard position. So I think this could be a good look for him. His points line at 24.5, yeah, it seems kind of high, but look at, just from a scoring perspective, 3 straight games here. I also really don't mind, I know I'm talking about the mid-range here, but his rebounds plus assists, he's averaging 13.1 potential assists and 9 rebound chances over his last 10 here. In his last 5, those numbers stay fairly consistent as well. So if we look at this, and I like to cut these in half, 13 cut in half, give him 6 or 7, right? Rebound chances cut in half. That'd be around 4 to 5. One of those swings the opposite way, we're already at a floor of 11. You tell him he's not going to accidentally get a rebound or maybe an assist at some point throughout the game. I do like Cade Cunningham today. It depends on how we want to play. If it's PRA, if it's points, or if it's rebounds plus assists. And let me throw in the factor that he is a game time decision. So keep an eye on that. I don't know if, he did end up playing last game, in which I thought he could be out, right? But if you're betting on anybody on Detroit right now, it's pretty much Cade Cunningham or nobody. Even with Duren and Ivy, I just can't seem to trust that. Now, from a total perspective here, the total sitting at 223. This Atlanta team obviously has been playing with a fast pace throughout the year, but they've slowed down as of late, and as has Detroit. So I don't think that either one of these teams are going to look to run in transition as much as you might think. So I'm going to lean towards the under. Even though that seems like such a low number for these two teams, it's the way that I'm leaning. All right, and before we jump into the rest of the slate, I want to talk to you about Sleeper. We shouted them out over on the MLB video because they have an MLB free square for new users today. They also have a Donovan Mitchell 0.5 point square. The dude's electric, right? I think he's going to score 1 point today. Go check out Sleeper, guys. That link is going to be in the pinned comment. If it's available in your state and you're not on Sleeper, you're missing out on a really cool app. What you do is you combine 2 or more player props into a slip. You can win up to 100 times your money to doing it. But what they do is each and every play that you throw in there has its own unique multiplier, so it doesn't just follow a normal fixed payout structure like a bunch of apps out there, and you get your first deposit completely matched as well as this free square. Go check it out. That link is in the pinned comment. You guys see me with my sleeper picks all over Instagram and TikTok and whatnot because I really do love the app, and they just introduced alternate lines, which is going to be pretty damn nice. So go check it out, guys. That link in the pinned comment. Let's jump back into the games here. All right, we have what probably should be the game of the night here. Celtics at home hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. Right now, Celtics huge favorites in this one, which Shea didn't play last night. OKC is on a back-to-back here. He didn't play last night, and he's listed as questionable tonight as well. They got they took an L against Joel Embiid pops up and plays yesterday, but no Maxey. But I don't really fault the Thunder without SGA, you know what I mean? And Jalen Williams was out as well, which I think he's listed as out tonight too. So yeah, it makes sense why the Celtics are such favorites, but I do think it's going to be a close game. You're not going to catch me as a Celtics fan laying the -9. This could be a same game parlay potential type of a game though. So make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment. I'll post it on my Twitter as well. Maybe if we have time to do a shorts or a video or short form, we'll make that. But I think my main play here could be some sort of a same game parlay because I like a lot of spots for it. I like that there's a total of over 230. Do I think it gets there? Not necessarily. I would lean towards the under individually here, but I do think that we're going to see a decent amount of points, like 227 to 229. You know what I mean? So yeah, I lean the Celtics to win the game. If I'm taking the spread, if SGA plays, I'd take the 9 points on the Thunder side of things. But like I said, you're going to come down to the injuries there. If SGA doesn't play, Jalen Williams doesn't play, this is the Celtics going up against Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey, and Lou Dort. Not exactly afraid of that. On the Celtics side of things, Jaylen Brown is listed as a game time decision, so that's obviously worth noting as well. But yeah, tons of opportunities in this game. It's just going to come down to what we roll with. Now, from a player prop perspective, individually, I really like Kristaps Porzingis over 1.5 assists tonight. Last 5 games, he's hit it in 4 straight. Actually, he had 5 assists last game. He's averaging over 4 potential assists per game. This season, he had 2 assists against OKC on 4 potential assists, and they allow the 3rd most assists to opposing centers this season. So could be a good spot for him here for Kristaps over 1.5 assists. Caesars has this at -200, and BetMGM has it at -145. Who's wrong there? Probably Caesars. They'll come back down to earth because -145 is already pretty juiced, but I think it could be worth it. We're not asking for a lot there. But guys, like I said, keep an eye on the pinned comment. I'll link any tweets or anything like that because I think this could be a same game parlay potential. There's a lot more to unpack in this game. All right, I sit here and look at this game, and I have the same thoughts that I had 2 nights ago, right? They played in Indiana. Now they're playing in Brooklyn. They're 7-point dogs, Brooklyn is. They were 12.5-point dogs last game. They ended up losing by 20 points. At home here, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they're going to be a little bit better at home, which they are. 56% of their games they've covered at home this season. Head-to-head, though, it looks like this is an Indiana, matchup. This season, they've won both games by 20-plus points. So it's tough for me to get to the Brooklyn side of things. I will say Miles Turner is on the injury report as questionable, so that could be a total factor here. But for right now, I think I have to lean Indiana. I wanted to get to the Brooklyn side of things because, again, I think that this is too clear that it's Indiana. Do you know what I mean? Oh yeah, they've beat them by 20 twice. They beat them 2 days ago. This Brooklyn team's kind of in shambles and they're struggling, right? They've lost 7 of their last 10. Blah blah blah. it just seems too obvious that it's Indiana. So I'm going to lean towards the obvious direction. Another spot that I like in this game, we'll get to the total in a second, but I don't mind taking a peek at Old Faithful under 4.5 rebounds for Aaron Nesmith here. If Miles Turner doesn't play, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to impact, more rebounds being out there for people, but this is a Brooklyn team that allows plenty of rebounds, so it's going to be kind of a sweat, but he should land right around 3 or 4 rebounds like he has all season long. 4.5 still a little bit too high for him. Now, from a total perspective, nothing that I've seen so far would let me lean towards the under. So with that being said, I am going to lean towards the over here. We've seen, 7 of their last 10 games go overall within the last couple of years here in terms of playing one another. So I do think that there's some value in the over. Do I pull the trigger? Not sure. If I had to rank it, I'd probably go Pacers, player prop, total in this spot, I guess. But again, there's tons of games on today's slate that just are not that great. So we're kind of trying to make lemonade out of lemons here. Speaking of, we got the Bucks at home, minus 13.5 points here against Memphis. So yesterday's game, the Bucks end up, first off, they were winning that game at one point. Washington comes back, and Washington has a decent fourth quarter, right? They win that the third quarter they win, and they had a really good end to the first half. So, right in the middle of that game, they kind of pull away, and yeah, the Bucks end up losing by 4. They were 12-point favorites in that spot. Bucks on back-to-backs this year, 50-50. Memphis with rest advantage, though, only 47% of their games they have won. So it's not even like you can really make a case for that side of things. And Memphis, their last game was against Detroit, and they barely won that game against Detroit. So I think I have to lean towards the Bucks in this spot. One thing to note is that Damian Lillard may be coming back here, game time decision. He's been out the last couple, so maybe there is a little bit of a spark here for this game. I'm also going to lean towards the under. Memphis, shout out to, I believe it was Kyle the Sauce, said it on one of his live streams that I saw. Without Desmond Bane, this Memphis team just consistently seems to hit unders or at least play with slow pace. And this Bucks defense, I keep saying it, I may be wrong, I understand that, but I think the Bucks, as they head into the playoffs, are going to want to shore up that defense because that's how they started to make strides after the All-Star break. It wasn't because, Lillard and Giannis learned how to play offense together. No, they're both superstars. It was the defense that came along. So is that fizzling out? Maybe, but I do think a team like Memphis here, the Bucks could go, yeah, you're not scoring much on us. Last time they played, it was a 223 finish. That was about a month ago. So I'd like to see a little bit more defense than that. But yeah, I think the Bucks are going to focus on defense in this one. Minnesota taking on Toronto, both teams on a back-to-back here. 16 points is definitely a hell of a lot to lay on a back-to-back. Toronto gets smoked last night. Minnesota in a close back-and-forth game that they end up winning by 7 points, but it was kind of a sweat. I'm going to lean towards Toronto. I'll sound the psycho alert alarm because they're the worst team, but is it that crazy to take 16 points against a team on a back-to-back, regardless if you are on a back-to-back or not, right? Now, from an injury perspective, definitely worth noting, Quickly and RJ Barrett are back. This is now going to be their second game back. Gary Trent Jr. should be good to go. This should be a more healthy Toronto team than we've seen in a while. Against Minnesota, again, I think Minnesota wins this game, but 16 points is asking a lot, so I sound the psycho alert alarm because this actually has somewhat of a chance of being a final play. I could see Toronto losing this game by 9 points, never having a chance to win, but 9, almost half of the spread. And looking at that total, it's supposed to be a low-scoring game, right? 215. You're telling me that you're going to give me 16 points in a game that should be a 215 spot? I don't think so, man. I do think that this is going to be an over kind of based on that. You know what I mean? You don't have a 16-point spread and safely take a 215 total. So I will slightly lean towards the over, but honestly, I don't mind Toronto in this spot. I'm probably going to look like an idiot come tomorrow, but we may pull the trigger on it. I just think it is just way too high of a line here. Now, from a player prop perspective here, Toronto will let anything happen at the rim. So you can obviously look at some Gobert numbers and whatnot. But to be honest, nothing necessarily jumps off the page to me, but one trending play that's been working as of late is Mike Conley PRA, but I'm actually going to kind of pivot and look at his rebounds plus assists in this spot. Even though he hasn't been hitting that, I do think that over 8.5 could be a spot. That's a spot in which Toronto really has struggled on the year. 3rd most assists allowed and 6th most rebounds allowed to the point guard position. If you wanted one of them, I don't mind his assists for plus money right now, plus 114. He's only averaging 8.5 potential assists per game. His line right now is 6.5. So that would seem crazy. But again, in a good matchup for plus money, that's where I kind of identify the value. New Orleans taking on the Magic here. I think I'm going to be on the New Orleans side of things. I could see this being a really close game either way, but this is a line that's moved around. Opened up at 4.5, went to 4, went to 3.5. Now is starting to get back to 4. So if you like New Orleans, you may want to try and snag a 3.5 while you can. But seems like the consensus that is this is going to be kind of a average-ish -4 for New Orleans. But I like the 3.5 spot for them. Have they been playing well? Well, yes, technically, but they've lost 3 of their last 4. Those losses, OKC, Boston, and then the Suns. Like, they haven't had the easiest of schedules here, where you could really make an argument that this Orlando team hasn't been playing all that well. And when they last played New Orleans, which was just, 10 days ago or so, they smoked them 126-106. So I think New Orleans now at home thinking, all right, let's go and do this thing. This is a Magic team that has played 9 home games in their last 10 games. They're on the road against New Orleans here. I don't think it's going to be the easiest spot, even though Orlando has been a good road team this season. So I want to give credit where it's due. I just think this is going to be a New Orleans spot, to be completely honest, overall, especially with the way that line's moving. Like, it's not moving all that much. It did move from 4.5 to 3.5, so books didn't like giving up that plus 4.5 on the Magic side of things, but then from 3.5 jumps to 4. So books are kind of confused in this one, meaning there is an argument to be made for both sides here. Now, from a total perspective, 208 seems super low, but what did you expect with these two teams, right? Like, over their last 5 games here, from a scoring perspective, this Magic team not scoring all that many points, right? Averaging 103 from the offensive end. And then New Orleans over the last 5 games here from an offensive perspective, 107. So this should at most be a 210 game, which is only 2 points over the total. I think there's a lot of room for a lot of good defense to be played here. So I'm going to lean slightly towards the under as well in this spot. Now, I searched for some player props, and I really did. I can't seem to find anything that I'm absolutely loving. I don't mind Franz Wagner here over 2.5 assists. He's hit in 3 straight games against the Pelicans, averaging 6 potential assists over his last 10, but there's games where he's not even coming close and having like 0 assist games or 1 assist games, so a little worrisome there. But like I said, he's definitely cashed it in a couple straight games against New Orleans. All right, another decent game here. Out of all the games today, you realistically have the Celtics game against the Thunder, the Pelicans versus the Magic, and the Suns versus the Cavs as like viable, good spot games, right? So I do think that this is, I guess, a spot where like, it's a big slate, but not many good games. Now, Donovan Mitchell is on the injury report for the Cavs. He also is the sleeper promo, like I said, but if he doesn't play, that gets voided anyways. But nonetheless, I think if Mitchell doesn't play, I'm going to be on the Phoenix side of things here. I think that they match up fairly well. Again, this is without Mitchell playing. 5.5 points, I'll admit, is a lot to be laying. But as him being doubtful, like, you gotta realize that this Cleveland team, when he was out, struggled without him. Now he's going to be out again, or potentially out again. Kind of, breaking this game down, expect him to be out because he is doubtful. So yeah, give me Phoenix in this spot. They're a team in which, when we look at the standings here, they're in the 8th spot. Like, they want to maybe even work their way out of the play-in, and Cleveland should want to win games as well. Like, they're only a game and a half above Orlando, I believe, but only a game behind Milwaukee, something like that. Like, there's still a couple games left in the year where there could be some motion, but Donovan Mitchell not playing, like, could be a huge blow. Now, if Mitchell plays, I honestly probably do snap back and look at the Suns here. So it really is going to come down to him. He didn't play on their who'd they play? The Cavs played Utah yesterday. Donovan Mitchell didn't get the go, right? So maybe they're saving him for this game, but again, he's listed as doubtful on some spots and questionable on others. In terms of how they fare on back-to-backs too, another reason why I don't mind it, 41% of the games they've covered on a back-to-backs. So this is a Suns spot for me overall. I know I rambled all about that. In terms of a total here, I'm going to take the under. I do think that I like this spot. These two teams, both have it in them to play some good defense, to be completely honest. And to this line in their last 10 games here, this has been a spot in which, they've played good defense, or I guess I would say this. Most games have been one-sided affairs where I think these two teams match up fairly well against one another. So in terms of scoring and defense, both should be hard for both teams. Hopefully that makes sense. As I said out loud, I'm like, that sounds stupid. give me the under. I think that there's going to be a defensive presence in this game, as well as, you know, every spot in which, you know, Cleveland loves to shoot from, you know, right around the hoop, right? Phoenix very good at defending it. Cleveland also going to struggle to shoot from the corners here, a spot in which they like. So I do think anything that they like on both sides could be a tough spot. But guys, keep an eye on the pin com because Mitchell is going to be the indicator of this game where we want to lean towards. Right now he's listed as questionable / doubtful. Don't love that, but again, he was out last night, so maybe some sites haven't updated yet. But guys, it's going to wrap for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and comment 25, letting me know that you made it this far into the video. It's not 25 minutes yet, but it will be pretty damn soon, and I do appreciate everyone tuning in. I love that we've cultivated, you know, this community in the sense that, you know, I can come on here, have some fun, be wrong, make fun of myself for stupid bets or stupid things I say. Like, this isn't a suit and tie operation where it's like, well, I think the spread today is going to be this, and I don't talk about the losses. We have a brand called Fade Me for a reason. Like, this is just as much about having a good time as it is about sports betting, which, you know, I hope most people agree with that. I know some people are like, I don't care, just give me the picks. All right, fine, you can get your picks, but that's a terrible mindset, you know what I mean? Like, it's more about learning how to bet or seeing what I'm betting on versus just taking my picks. Like, why am I betting that? And if you want to ride with it because you agree, let's have some fun riding with it. If you want to fade me and point at me when you win and I lose, that's fun too, you know what I mean? But anyways, I'm ranting. We'll get out of here, guys. Go check out the MLB video. We posted that. It should be live at the time you're watching this as well. So yeah, catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.